So I've had some people ask me about pendulums and how to use pendulums. So I thought I'd do a little video on how to use a pendulum. I actually wrote a book on how to use pendulums. It's probably backwards in your screen because I'm doing self-recording of this. Okay, so pendulums. Now this is a crystal pendulum. This is a quartz crystal pendulum. So this is actually made for the purpose of being a pendulum. So you can see it's a quartz crystal, and this one actually has been carved. It's got many facets, which is really beautiful. And this one's made from a natural crystal. And as you can see, this particular one happens to have what I call a little personality. It's got a little green bit inside. I don't know if you can see that, right? So natural crystals will often have things inside them, and they may have little fractures inside them, and they may change color or look different, and that's just part of being a quartz crystal. I have a couple of other ones here. I have a citrine one. Citrine is a great one for manifesting, and again, it's a natural crystal, so it's not perfect. You don't want them to be perfect. I have a lapis, blue lapis. So this is a really great one for the third eye. But you don't have to have an actual pendulum. You really can use anything. So I could take my pendant off. I have another pendant here, but I could just use any pendant would work just as well, or anything like even car keys on the end of a string would work. So any weight on the end of a string is going to work as a pendulum. Different crystals have different properties. So a quartz crystal is it has many different modalities. I mean, it's great for healing, it's great for the third eye. So a lot of people use plain quartz. The blue lapis one, lapis is very good for opening the third eye, for intuition. And so this would be a good one for intuitive readings. And citrine is known for manifesting. So if you're going to ask business questions, that might be a good one. And I have a green one here. It's a green quartz, and that would be great for healing. But that being said, you could just pick one that you like and use that one for everything. So you don't have to have different ones for different purposes. And like I said, you don't even have to have an actual pendulum. You could really just use the weight on the end of a string or any kind of pendant or chain. Okay, so what are we doing? Well, I'm going to teach you how to use pendulums for divining. So that would be, for like telling the future, for asking questions. And I'll show you also some other uses, like using healing and things. Okay, so when we're doing any kind of divining, spiritual work, asking for messages from the other side, we always want to start with doing protection, because we're asking to connect with spirits that are from a higher realm, and we're asking for messages from the divine. Now there are kind of like lower level energies. I don't want to say negative energies, but just like here on the earth we have people that are good and people that are not so good, and all kind of shades. So in the spiritual world we have the same thing. And the reason Ouija boards are not recommended is because they tend to have kind of negative low level energies. So you don't want anything coming through and giving you mixed messages. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to ask for protection for ourselves. And you should do this for any kind of meditation, any kind of card reading, any kind of spiritual work, right? So I'm just going to put beautiful white light around me, and I'm going to ask for angels all around me, and I'm just going to see myself in this bubble of white light. You could say the Lord's Prayer, you could ask for angels above and below you, all around you. You could envision yourself stepping into a bubble white light or stepping into a golden suit and zipping it up. So whatever feels good to you, and you're really just saying, I'm only working with beings of the highest of goodness. So when I first pick up a pendulum, I'll actually ask it, am I working with the spirit from the white light? That's my signal for yes. Thank you. Am I working with the spirit from the white light? That's my signal for yes. And then a third time. Thank you. Am I working with the spirit from the white light? And that is my code for yes. So I'll show you how to do your yes, no. Thank you. If you are getting kind of confusing messages, sometimes you're getting kind of interference. So if you're not really sure, you can stop and do that. Am I really getting a message from a white light spirit? All right, so first we have to find out what is your yes, no. So you hold the pendulum. The way you hold the pendulum, you're just holding it very lightly. Some people wrap it around a finger like that. I just hold it very loosely. Now your fingers are gonna move a little bit. So a lot of times people will be like, I am not moving. I am like, it's not me moving it, and they actually stopping the pendulum from moving because they're so worried about doing it themselves or being fake. So your fingers are gonna move a little bit, and that's part of it. When you're getting a message from divine, they are gonna go and they are gonna move it a little bit. So you wanna just hold it loosely, and you're gonna say, give me a yes, and it should start moving. Now that's my symbol for yes. Thank you. Give me a no, and I'm gonna get a different symbol. Now that is my no, and that's always my no, and always my yes. Thank you. So my yes happens to be forwards and backwards, and my no happens to be counterclockwise or anti-clockwise. It could be that your yes is this way and your no is this way, or your yes is in a circle this way and your no is in a circle that way. But it doesn't matter, whatever you pick up, your yes and your no are always the same. So give me a yes. And I'm getting a yes, same exact direction. Thank you. Give me a no. And same thing. So that's my symbol for yes, no. So you want to do that to start with to find out, and that's your universal symbol. No matter what you're using, that's always going to be your yes and your no. So who is answering you, yes or no? Is it your higher self? Is it your spirit guide? Is it spirits from the other side that are around you? Well, I've asked this question and they basically told me that's the same thing. So I believe that we have guides that are around us, that we have our own guide, our own personal guide that's always with us. And our primary guide is with us when we're born. They're there in spirit. They're with us the entire time through our life. And they know us really well. They love us unconditionally, and they know kind of the symbols to show us. And so they will often communicate things to you, and they know kind of what that's going to spark for you. So for instance, if you're reading tarot cards, they'll show you a symbol or a sign in the card, or they might show you a symbol that you'll find like a pebble, or they might show you something in the clouds. That's your spirit guides showing you, and they know what you're going to interpret that as. Another person might see exactly the same thing and have a different interpretation, but it's your guides talking to you and working and telling you, giving you that communication, so they know what that means to you. So your guide is often thought of as your higher self, because it is part of you. Your guide is part of you. My mom's watching off camera, and she just got a symbol. So as we're talking about that, this little feather just literally floated right down into her lap. So, often spirits will show us something like a little feather, And it might be someone, a loved one, that keeps showing you the same sign over and over. They might show you the same numbers over and over. If you ever find a penny and you look at the penny, look at the date. And that might be somebody showing you a specific date, like a date of a birthday, a date of an important event. Look at this particular date because that's similar to what you're going through right now. So if you pick up a coin that says 1987, what were you doing that year? And that's relevant to what's going on. And so pennies, they say pennies are sent from heaven, and little angels. Sometimes these are angels that send these. Sometimes you guide your loved ones, and sometimes these are angels. But I think that, you know, we've got spirits here listening, and I'm saying that, and all of a sudden this just dropped down to my mum's lap. So watch out for signs. We get a lot of signs and we don't pay attention. So is it your spirit guide? Is it your higher self? It really is both. Your higher self is your spirit guide. It's all kind of part of one and the same, but you're tapping into that intuition, that other dimension. Okay, so first you ask, do I have a spirit from the white light that wants to answer my question? And you make sure you get a yes. Now, you know your yes, no. Also, you could, if like you're choosing which pendulum to use or which pendulum you should buy, if you can actually pick them up, you can ask, is this a good pendulum? Do you want to work with me? Is this a good one for me to use? And you want a nice, strong yes, right? You want a lot of movement. And hopefully these all want to work with me, but you never know, some are stronger than others. Is this a good pendulum for me to use? And a nice strong yes, right? So before you ask, you say, you put your white light of protection, you say, do I have a spirit from the white light that wants to talk with me? Am I working in the highest of goodness? And does this pendulum want to give me the right answer? And if you're not sure at any time, you can re-ask that. Re-ask that 3 times, and nothing negative wants to really stay around and mess with you if you're asking that 3 times and you've got your white light of protection. Okay, so you find out your yes, no answers. And you can test it. So, is my name Fred? No. My name is obviously not Fred. Thank you. Is my name Gail? So test it on something that you know. And then you can ask it something more important. So just think of something that's relevant in your life that is definitely a yes, no answer. Okay, should I plan a spiritual trip with people in May 2020? No. It's not a good idea right now to plan a trip. Kind of knew the answer. But sometimes you might not ask it in the right way. For instance, is there going to be an earthquake in Los Angeles where I live? Is there going to be an earthquake today? And I got a yes. Right, so should I be really afraid? Well, I wasn't very specific, and there are little earthquakes that happen all the time. So the thing about this is, when you ask a question, you have to be careful about what you're asking, because it's not going to interpret. It really is just literally the question you're asking. So sometimes you could be not specific enough. So if I say, is there going to be an earthquake 4.5 or greater today in Los Angeles? No. So if I'd have asked, like, is there a little tiny earthquake? Well, yeah, I could have asked, is there a 2.0 earthquake? I probably would get a yes. So you have to be a little bit more specific. So sometimes you might get an answer and it might be a bit confusing. So ask a few more questions that are definitely yes, no, so that you can, make sure that you're also asking the right question. Now, if you ask a question and it just kind of sits there, it just doesn't move at all, you ask a question and it doesn't move, or it bounces up and down, that's saying ask another question, because you're not getting an answer for some reason. It's you didn't ask it right, it's confused, right? So it's got to either give you a yes or a no, depending on what your signal is. But if it's not moving at all, then the question's not right. So try again, ask another one. Now there are times when you might be asking something that is not in your highest of goodness to know. So if you ask a question and it's confusing or it's not going for you, you can say, am I allowed to know that? Is that something that you're allowed to tell me? So, is it in my highest of interest to know if I should do a spiritual trip in May 2020? Yes, it's in my highest of interest to know. So that's fine. I can ask that question. It's going to tell me the truth. But if it had been kind of bouncing up and down or not sure, I would have asked, well, is this something I'm not supposed to know about? And you can overdo it, right? So you kind of have to take what it says, because it can get frustrated if you ask again and again, right? So you can say, I'm in this relationship, and does he love me? And you get a maybe or a no, and you're like, I don't like that. Okay, I'll ask it again. Does he love me? And you can kind of overdo it to the point where they're like, all right, fine, whatever you want to ask, whatever you want to know, I'm just going to give it to you. Or I'm going to give you the right answer. So don't overdo it. You can ask once, maybe ask a clarifying question, but don't just keep asking it and asking, right, and not trusting. Okay, so you can ask, you can almost do an entire reading about your future, but you've always got to do it in a yes, no. Now you can ask your guides to give you other answers as well. You could program it to give you a special signal for a maybe, or it's more likely or not very likely. So you can have like shades if you decide to do that. I simply just like to do a yes, no. And then the maybe is it's not really going for me. But you can actually say, okay, give me a signal for, it's not a yes, but it's a maybe yes, or it's a no or a maybe no. You can ask things like that. Okay, so you can also, you can ask about timing if you want to, but you're going to have to give it a range. So for instance, I could say, am I going to do another spiritual trip, physically taking people on a spiritual trip within the next 3 months? No. Thank you. Am I going to do another spiritual trip within the next year? Okay, yes. So I know that somewhere between 3 months and a year, I'm going to be able to do another spiritual trip. So you could actually hone into it, and you can say, is something going to happen before, and give it an actual date or a day. And remember, if you're saying something like before Wednesday, well, what Wednesday? Or if you're saying before November, make sure you say November 2020. Right, because it could be, before November, could be November in 10 years' time. So you've got to make sure that you're always being clear and asking questions and clarifying it. So if you are doing, you can do this for yourself, but you can also do this for other people. So if you're doing kind of a reading for other people, you're still talking to your guides. So it's still your inner self, your guides. It's not actually their guides that you're talking to. And so this is great if somebody wants to come and ask you for, say, career advice. If you're doing a reading and you're a medium and you get messages from loved ones and you get communication from guides. There's two different ways of doing this. To me, the higher form of communication is mediumship, and that's when you actually connect with a spirit or loved one from the other side. And then there are psychics that talk to their intuition, their spirit guides. That's more for, like, if somebody came and asked about career, you're not going to tap in and talk to their mother about their career or their love life. You're going to be talking to your guides, and these guides they've had an incarnation on this earth, and they are highly aware, very powerful beings. And so for any kind of like advice, day-to-day stuff, you're going to be talking to your inner self or your guides, right? So you can do a whole reading by asking yes/no questions if you keep asking specific yes/no questions, and you can get into going deeper and asking when exactly it's going to happen or how many of something is going to happen. You can say, is it more than 3? Is it more than 10? You could be talking about finances, and you could say, is it going to be more than $100? Am I going to get more than $10,000? And you can, get yes, no on that. So that's one way of using your pendulum to do readings. Another way of using a pendulum is seeing the energy in something. So I have a crystal here. This is an amethyst crystal, third eye crystal. This is really beautiful. And the energy of the amethyst crystal, if you're very psychically sensitive and you hold this, you may be able to feel it. And what it feels like is you're feeling this like higher vibration. It feels good. You feel like you've been meditating for a while and you've gotten yourself in this kind of higher vibrational state. And so this is the energy you're feeling of. Some people, can't feel anything. Those are more sensitive and more clairaudient, but those are more sensitive feel it more. But if I was to take this pendulum and put it over this crystal, you'll see it rotates. So this is like the vortex of that crystal. I take it away, there's just nothing really there. Okay, and then I have a bigger crystal here. If I put let's use the same pendulum. And once it gets over the top of the vortex, it starts spinning. Okay, and this one I think is a bit stronger than that one, which doesn't surprise me. I mean, this is really a massive crystal, right? So that's got a lot of power in it. And if I take this away, the vortex is gone. So crystals do have high energy. If you were to take a crystal to a point like Stonehenge or to Sedona and feel the vortexes, it will often spin for you. But how does it affect your energy? Because this is a beautiful crystal, has great energy. This is a beautiful crystal, has great energy. But how does it affect you? And how things affect your energy field depend on what you need. So let's say you have an issue with relationships. This would be your sacral chakra area. Or you've got physical issues like digestive problems in this area of your body. A crystal that's going to vibrate well with that area of your body is going to really raise your vibration and your energy. Whereas a crystal that is, say, for the third eye, if you don't really need that, it's not going to be as strong for you. So it's more important, how do they affect your own energy? Well, we all have energy that runs through us. We have life force energy. So just when you're at rest, you're going to have some energy coming through you. Unless you're dead, you will have a little bit. Okay, so energy comes out of the palms of your hands, and as you can see, I have just a nice little bit of energy coming out of the palms of my hands. Now, if I was doing healing work, that energy would get stronger, and you'd see it getting stronger. So let's see, if I was to hold, okay, I've got some other precious gems here. Let's see what we've got here. Okay, so here I've got a This is a Siberian golden quartz, and it's cut in a flower of life. That's great for manifesting. And here, these are just random ones I picked up. This is a ruby lavender. Ruby lavender is a beautiful stone. Can't get any more of it, but it's very good for relationships, right? So how my energy reacts to these depends on what I need, right? So let's say I hold this one here, this mega quartz, and I can either hold it in the palm of my hand or just stick it in my energy field. So I'm just going to stick it on my lap right now and see how that affects my energy. So you saw it before I had a crystal, and now I put it on the palm of my hand, and my chakras actually change direction as they power up. I don't know why that is, but some people do. So that's much stronger, right? Can you see how my energy is much stronger? And then I'm going to take it away from my energy field. My energy is back to normal. So that is why if you're super sensitive and you feel crystals, what you're feeling is you're actually feeling more energy running through you. You're feeling your energy power up. So that would be a great one for me. If I just was to make a necklace out of that, that would be, walk around like that, I'd be really empowered. Okay, it's a bit big. The energy really is in the point of the crystal. And so that's why if you can get the point of the crystal cut into a power shape, it's going to be really strong. Now this is a beautiful one. This is a third eye one. This is amethyst. So let's put that in my lap and see. Does that work really well for me? And you might be surprised. Sometimes the smaller ones have a lot more power than the big ones. It just depends on how it affects you. Okay, so that's strong, but it's not as strong as the other one. Okay, let's try the ruby lavender. That's more for romantic relationships. And let's put that in my energy field. And again, it's good, but it's not amazing, really. It's good, but it's not as powerful as this one. Why? Because, I guess that's not anything I really need right now. How about this one? This is a Siberian gold, very similar to quartz, and it's the flower of life, which is about coming into your own potential. So let's put that one in my lap and see. And that one is really, really strong for me. Probably equal to that massive crystal. Maybe even more. Why? Because my body resonates with this. So this Siberian quartz is about manifesting, but it's also about your confidence area, sharing with people. And, so that's what I'm doing right now. And it's about getting into your life path. So this is kind of like, this is my life path. I love sharing this stuff. And so this is kind of accentuating that. So that's why this particular one works really strong for me. So you can use a pendulum to test and feel energy to see if something's good. You can use it for yes, no questions in a reading. And then the third way I really like for pendulums is in healing. So I showed you that we have certain chakras. We have the 7 main chakras, but we also have little chakras in our palms, and that's where I was testing it. We also have energy centers and chakras. It's kind of hard to do on myself, but I have a chakra right here, which is my third eye. I have one right here, which is my throat chakra, my heart chakra, right? So if I put this on myself, it's very difficult for me to hold and do it myself, and I can't see it. But it should be rotating. And that is the third eye. So what you're seeing is it's actually acting like a magnet, and it's showing you where your chakras are. Now, it doesn't matter if this is a crystal or if this is really just a string with a weight on the end of it. It will still work. I do like the crystals, and crystals have other properties that we can use for healing. But it could be anything. What I do like about having the crystal pendulums is when you're doing healing and you're doing healing work with crystals, these can double. So you can use a pendulum to, I'm going to show you in a second, you can use a pendulum to test the energy, but then you can also use the pendulum as a crystal for healing. So this pendulum's great with a nice point on it. And so for healing chakras, I could use this as a crystal for actually doing the healing as well. So it would double as it. And different crystals have different purposes. So your green one's very healing. Your quartz one basically does everything. Citrine was manifesting, and then the lapis one is for the third eye. This one will be good for intuition. Okay, can I have a volunteer? I'm looking at my mom, who is the only one here with me.
So do
you think you can lay down here?
I suppose, yeah. Where do you want me to go? Feet to the pool?
Whichever way, doesn't matter. Just lay down. Oh, I was going to show you something else. So I'll show you this before we start working on the energy stuff. So I showed you things that were great for my energy field, right? But not everything is great for the energy field, right? So if I put my hand in a trash can or in some way something negative, it would actually drain my energy, right? So not everything is powerful. I showed you some crystals and some things that increase your energy. But what do you think about my cup of tea? Right? Do you think my cup of tea is good for me? Now, this is English breakfast tea with cream. I like my English breakfast tea. So what do you think? Does that make my energy stronger? No. It actually drains my energy. It's not really good for me. I probably should be drinking green tea. So am I going to drink green tea? No, because I like my tea. So I'm just going to use some crystals, wear some crystals, and do some other things. So, you know, nobody's perfect. So my tea's probably not the best for me. And I'll just go ahead and power myself up and hold my big whopping crystal for a second. All right, so pendulums can also be used to show you the chakras and the energy on the chakras. So here is my mom's sacral chakra, right? So if I'm doing healing on her, I could do this at the beginning to test her chakras, or I could kind of come across an area and say, okay, do we need a little bit more there? And I can test her sacral chakra. Now it doesn't matter which way it rotates, as long as it rotates, right? So it's rotating. It's not huge, but it's okay, right? So sacral chakra, romantic relationships, that's kind of okay, right? Base chakra is between your legs, so we can't really go between your legs, but we're just going to kind of hold it above the legs right there. And you see, it's kind of bouncing up and down, going backwards and forwards. It's not rotating nice and smoothly. So I would like that base chakra to be a little bit more open. Base chakra is going to be old trauma stuff from many years ago, often old family stuff. So at this point, I would then, do a little bit of healing work. So I'm just going to ask right now just to send a little bit of Reiki healing. You can have stuff in here that's like really stuck and, you know, might require quite a bit more. But let's just see. And that just did it. Just that little bit. It got that chakra opened up. And you can see that the pendulum's rotating a lot better, a lot faster. So it's not the energy in the pendulum, it's actually the energy of the chakra is stronger. Now, that doesn't mean to say that this will not go back and get shut down again. So, you know, we want to kind of address more permanent issues. Often healers do work and the person feels wonderful, and then they go back to their life doing what they're doing, and whatever issues they've got kind of creep back in. And so kind of have to do a little bit more healing on that. But that's just showing you how it can open up pretty quickly. You see here, so this here is the solar plexus. I use the same pendulums just so you can see there's no difference. Doesn't really matter which one you use. And here's the solar plexus. Let's try the solar plexus. Okay, and that one's quite shut down, right? So you see how that's really not moving very well at all. And any of these pendulums will really show you the same thing. Even just a weight on the end of a string will show you the same thing. It's showing you the energy of that chakra, which doesn't have a lot of energy in there. Well, one way you can spin up and open up the chakras is using crystals. So I'm going to use this pendulum to double as a quartz crystal, because it is a quartz crystal. So what I would do, I'm going to go counterclockwise. Now, it doesn't matter which way the chakras spin. The chakras can spin one way or the other way. Some people have them all one way. Some people have them alternating, one clockwise, one counterclockwise, and they go down like that. So that's fine as long as they are all spinning. Okay. So we want to clean out this chakra, and so I'm going to take the point of the crystal and just a couple of inches away from the body, from the chakra. I'm going to say, and it's all intention, I'm taking away the negative energy out of this solar plexus. And you do that a couple of times. Throw that down to Mother Earth. And then I'm going to take the crystal and go clockwise. Now I'm powering up that chakra. Right? And then let's just test it and see. Did that open it up? Yes, absolutely. That opened that up strong. So sometimes it's just as simple as that to get the chakras really energized and clear and working. Sometimes they can take a lot more. So this is good when you're doing a Reiki session, you're doing a healing session, and you're trying to figure out where in the body there might be stuck energy. And you know, if it's on a leg, there's no real chakras there, so the pendulum's not going to tell you. But if you go to the closest chakra, so if you feel it like on her leg, that you can't put the pendulum there. It's not going to really tell you anything because there's no vortex there. You have to bring it over to the base chakra. I'm not going to show you the higher chakras because I have to switch the camera or anything.